Bullies laugh at Overweight man, then he flips them both with one perfect move. The alley smelled of damp concrete and stale beer, a narrow scar between two crumbling brick buildings in the heart of the city. Marcus trudged through it, his heavy frame casting a long shadow under the flickering street lamp. At 34, he'd grown used to the weight of his body and the weight of the world's judgment. His dark skin glistened with sweat from the summer heat, and his old sneakers scuffed against the ground. He was heading home from his night shift at the warehouse, a job that paid just enough to keep the lights on. But tonight, the air felt heavier, charged with something he couldn't name. He heard them before he saw them, low chuckles, the kind that slithered through the dark. Two figures emerged from the shadows, blocking his path. The taller one, a wiry man in a leather jacket named Jake, grinned like a wolf. His buddy, Tommy, shorter and stockier, clutched a baseball bat, tapping it lightly against his palm. Marcus's stomach tightened. He knew their type. He'd known them his whole life. "Look at this guy," Jake sneered, his voice dripping with venom, waddling through like he owns the place. "You lost, big man." Tommy laughed, a sharp bark that echoed off the walls. Marcus kept his eyes down, his heart pounding. He didn't want trouble. Not tonight. Not ever. But Jake stepped closer, his boots crunching on broken glass. "What's wrong, huh? Too fat to run? Too black to fight back?" The words hit like a fist, each one laced with the kind of hate that Marcus had felt since he was a kid in a small town where he was always the outsider. He clenched his jaw, his hands balling into fists at his sides. He could feel the old scars literal and not burning under his skin. Tommy swung the bat lazily, letting it whistle through the air. "Come on, say something," he taunted. "Or are you just gonna stand there like a cow?" The insult stung, but Marcus stayed silent. He'd learned long ago that words didn't win fights. Still, the rage was building, a slow boil in his chest. He thought of his mother, her voice soft but firm. "You're bigger than their hate, Marcus. Always will be." Jake shoved him hard. Marcus stumbled back, his shoulders scraping against the rough brick wall. The pain was sharp, but it was nothing compared to the humiliation. The alley seemed to close in, the world narrowing to the two men in front of him and the laughter that felt like knives. He wanted to scream, to swing, to do anything but stand there. But he didn't. Not yet. Then came the twist, a third voice, unexpected, slicing through the tension like a blade. "Leave him alone." It was a woman, small but fierce, stepping out from the mouth of the alley. She couldn't have been older than 25, her hair in tight braids, her eyes blazing with a fire that made even Jake pause. She wore a waitress's apron, smudged with ketchup and grease, and held a phone in one hand, its screen glowing. "I'm recording this," she said, her voice steady. "And I know your faces." Jake's grin faltered, but he recovered quickly. "Mind your business, girl," he snapped, taking a step toward her. Tommy hesitated, glancing between his friend and the woman. Marcus saw a crack in their armor. The woman, whose name he'd later learn was Lena, didn't flinch. "I called the cops already," she lied, holding the phone higher. "You want to be famous for this?" The air was electric now, the standoff teetering on a knife's edge. Marcus's heart raced, but something shifted inside him. He saw Lena's courage, her willingness to step into a fight that wasn't hers. And he saw Tommy's uncertainty, the bat lowering slightly. This was his moment. Not to fight with fists, but to fight with something stronger. He stepped forward, his voice low but clear. "You don't know me," he said, looking Jake dead in the eye. "You don't know what I've carried, but I'm not your punching bag." He turned to Tommy, whose grip on the bat was loosening. "And you? You don't even want to be here, do you?" The words hung in the air, heavy and true. Tommy's face twitched, a flicker of shame crossing it. Jake laughed, but it was forced now, hollow. You think you're tough? He spat, but his eyes darted to Lena's phone, to the alley's exit. Marcus took another step, his voice rising. I'm not tough. I'm tired. Tired of people like you thinking you can break me because of my skin or my size. But you can't. You never will. He pointed at Tommy. And you know why? Because you're just as scared as I am. You're just too weak to admit it. The alley went silent. Tommy's back clattered to the ground, the sound ringing like a gunshot. Jake froze, his bravado crumbling. Lena's phone stayed steady, capturing it all. And Marcus stood tall, his chest heaving, his words a weapon sharper than any fist. Jake muttered a curse and backed away, dragging Tommy with him. They disappeared into the dark, their footsteps fading. Lena lowered her phone, her hands shaking now. You okay? She asked, her voice softer. Marcus nodded, his throat tight. Thanks to you. He looked at her, this stranger who'd changed everything. Why'd you do that? She shrugged, a small smile breaking through. Because I've been where you are, and someone helped me once. They walked out of the alley together, the city's hum wrapping around them. Marcus felt lighter, not because the world had changed, but because he had. He'd faced the hate head-on, not with violence, but with truth. And Lena's courage had reminded him of something his mother always said, the strongest move isn't the loudest. It's the one that lasts. Days later, Marcus heard Tommy had quit hanging with Jake. Even turned himself in for some petty theft they'd done. It wasn't justice, not fully, but it was a start. Lena became a friend, someone who'd share coffee and stories of their battles with the world. And Marcus kept walking, head high, knowing he was more than the slurs thrown at him. The world still had its Jakes, its alleys, its shadows. But it also had Lena's, and moments where a single movie, a word, a stand could flip everything. Marcus had found his, and he'd carry it forever. What do you think? Can one moment of courage change a cycle of hate? Or is justice harder to find?